Okay, in the second module, I want to talk about what kinds of law firms exist and how they're different. Because a lot of times you see TV lawyers or people in like the show Suits or ambulance chasers, and sometimes we forget that there's different practice areas of law. So I want to navigate what that looks like. So first off, the primary practice areas we work with are bankruptcy law firms, criminal defense law firms, family law firms, estate planning and probate law firms, immigration law firms, and then the other one is either employment law or personal injury law firms. Those are the core that we work with and we traditionally place non-attorney salespeople with. Now, how do their business models differ? So traditionally, the biggest differentiator between those law firms is one, those that I talked about are traditionally what we call fee-based law firms. And when I say fee-based law firms, meaning the law firm charges a flat fee to conduct the service that we are helping the client achieve. And so they're actually charging a fee on the front side to fulfill that service. And then you've got contingency law firms. Contingency law firms are like employment law or personal injury. And what contingency means is the client will only pay if we win. So essentially, if the law firm wins the case for them and generates a settlement, the law firm will take a percentage of the settlement and the client will get the rest, but they're not paying anything up front to retain that law firm. That's the primary difference between how their business models differ beside the actual practice area of law they're performing. Now, which type of these law firms rely most heavily on closers or intake teams? Those practice areas. The ones that are actually charging a flat fee up front. Those are primarily the ones that also struggle the most with consultations. Because here's the deal. Attorneys go to law school to become great attorneys. They're never taught business in law school, and they're certainly not taught sales in law school. And so because of that, they usually don't have sales or small business acumen. And so the ones that have to charge a fee for their work really struggle to get deals closed at a solid close rate percentage and maximizing their cash collection down. They often run into cash collection issues as well. So they rely very heavily on having a strong non-attorney sales closer. Contingency law firms, much easier to get a deal closed because you're not charging money up front. You're basically getting them to sign a client service agreement if they have a problem that's qualified for that firm, saying, hey, you don't have to pay anything up front. If we win you the case, we get a percentage of the winnings. That's it. And so that's a pretty easy sale. So they do rely on intake teams and non-attorney closers, but it's a much easier sale. So there's usually less operational headache and less close rate droppage in those practice areas. Now, between these law firms, which ones have higher volume versus higher ticket cases? So to be clear, high volume versus high ticket, this quite honestly depends on the law firm. I will tell you, of all the law firms we work with, we predominantly only work with high ticket law firms, meaning they are not the bottom low cost provider in their market. In fact, most of the time, they are mid to the top cost of their service in their market, purposely so, because they aren't marketing on cost, they're marketing on value in the service that they provide. And because of that, they're able to maximize their case value. They're able to provide a better client experience, and they're able to maximize their profitability and margins as a law firm. So most of the law firms we work with are high ticket. Every now and again, we'll run into a high volume firm that maybe charges less and just does very, very high volume. Now, some may ask, how does the client journey or the prospect journey differ between these types, like urgency, trust level, emotional state? And I would tell you, in almost all of these scenarios, you're dealing with a prospect that's in a current hell or in a current situation. Criminal law. Someone got arrested for something. Someone's being charged with something. Bankruptcy. Someone's drowning in debt. Family law. Someone's going through a very difficult or abusive relationship, or their custody of their kids is an issue. Immigration. Someone is trying to get status in our country, but they're having a hard time doing it. The only one with that exception that sometimes is a future hell they're trying to avoid is estate planning. They're here at your firm today because they're trying to avoid a future hell or pain point for them or their family. And that's really the difference. Otherwise, almost all of those prospects are in an emotional state and have a problem that they already are aware needs to be solved. And they just want to make sure at the end of the day, and this is really all they care about, your firm's going to provide the best outcome possible. You're going to provide clear communication, and they're going to get a good client experience working with your firm. If you can demonstrate that through the consultation, which is exactly what our proven structure does, then in most cases, you're going to convert 60 to 80% of your prospects and your consults into paying clients.